Welcome, everyone. This is the first installment of the D2 Digital Series. My name is Travis Ray Cheney. In case you don't know who I am, I'm the CEO of Dynamic Directions, a coaching consulting firm. Our mission is to help advisors double their GDC in 3 years or less and help them build an extraordinary life and an extraordinary practice. You just need to let us know what extraordinary means to you. So I'm excited today about our first installment. Everyone here knows that the most enjoyable and effective way to acquire more ideal clients is through personal introductions. However, most financial professionals have not truly mastered the referral process and therefore miss many opportunities for growth. So our guest speaker here today, a successful entrepreneur, Bill Cates, has built and sold 2 successful businesses. And after the sale of his second company, Bill turned his attention to helping financial professionals multiply their best clients by adopting proven processes to generate personal introductions from advocates and communicate more compelling value. Bill is the author of 3 best-selling books, Get More Referrals Now, Beyond Referrals, and his newest book, Radical Relevance. He's also the host of a new podcast, which I'm familiar with. I was honored to be a guest, and I think that's coming out soon. And it's called topadvisorpodcast.com. He's also an adventurer. He's trekked through the Himalayas of Nepal and the Andes of Peru. He's lived in a houseboat in Kashmir, India. Climbed Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu.
Thank you. You said that earlier. I couldn't get that right. Say it again for me. You sound so much better.
Machu Picchu.
What he said, and reached the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, camped in Arctic Circle, and he's toured the country, get this, folks, as a drummer in a rock and roll band.
Get ready.
So we're not just talking to a guy with a corporate stuffed shirt here. Okay, he's been traveled. Anybody who plays in a band is a friend of mine. So the most important thing for you to know is that thousands of financial professionals are using Bill's system to attract a steady flow of high quality clients through referrals and personal introductions. So please give a warm D2 welcome to the referral coach, my friend, Bill Cates.
All right. Travis, thank you. Actually, Travis's interview goes live this Thursday. Topadvisorpodcast.com. I'll share that address with you later, but yours goes this Thursday. I'll talk about your new book, The 3 CEOs. Welcome, everybody. I hope you are ready. Oh, I forgot to say, in case you joined us and you misread the invitation, it's not Bill Gates on the call here. I missed it by 1 letter and quite a few billion brain cells. Bill Gates has a lot of money. Bill Cates, that's me. I'm going to help you make more money by serving more clients and serving them better. So this is going to be very much a strategic and tactical program. You definitely want to have some paper out ready to write unless you're driving. And we will stop for questions. We got a couple of planned stops as we go. Travis will be monitoring the chat or whatever you guys are using for that. And I'll pause and have a sip of water, and he'll see if there's any questions there. There's my email address. If you have a question that pops up later, a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever, just shoot it over. Happy to help any way I possibly can. And you're going to want to get the slides because you're going to see that I give you scripting, word tracks, what to do, what to say. Yeah, you're going to amend it for yourself and make it, personalize it for yourself. But all you got to do is just send me an email. Put D2. I've got some other things I'm going to send you along the way. So I'm going to keep mentioning this to send me an email, and everybody sends me an email with D2 in the subject line. We'll get all the goodies that I have to send to you for free. No gimmicks. All right. And we do have an important announcement. Part of the slide just disappeared, but I'm not going to worry about it. So about 2/3 of the way in, you're going to want to stay. Oh, there it is. It kind of got reversed. So we're going to make an important announcement in about 35 minutes. All right, here's the challenge that we all face. You face it, I face it, everybody faces it. Everyone's brains are overwhelmed. We know that. Just tons of messages coming at us, coming at your prospects. And so the challenge that we have is getting through, right? How do we cut through all that noise? How do we get our foot in the door? How do we stand out from the crowd? How do we look just different enough to capture somebody's attention? Well, the answer is actually pretty easy. The straightest line to being relevant to someone who doesn't know you, the straightest line to getting that foot in the door is an introduction from someone they trust, using the dynamic of borrowed trust long enough that someone else will let you in the door, and then you earn your own trust as you go. So that's there's a lot of values to the referral process, but that's certainly one of them. And so, as I mentioned, it is this dynamic of borrowed trust. And when you have the borrowed trust, and you guys know that the higher the level of trust between the referral source and the prospect, the more it's going to help you, right? The further through the door into their life that's going to take you. So you always want to be looking for those high trust relationships. I had a guy come to one of our boot camps. We haven't done a boot camp in years, but when he asked for referrals, he'd always say, who's someone in your life that you care about that would take my call just because you asked them to? Right? Would take my call just because you asked them to. He's looking for high trust relationships so he can leverage that. And everything gets easier. The one I want to focus on this list right here is the last item. Referrals beget referrals. Studies have shown that a client that comes into a practice through referrals, introductions, 2.5 times more likely to give a referral. And it makes sense, does it not, that they'd be a little more predisposed? So everything gets easier when you go this route, and eventually momentum takes over, and you can truly create a continual flow of good quality clients through introductions. And you know what? It's how they want to meet you. Every study I've ever seen, the last one I saw not too long ago was from Schwab. How do affluent people want to meet their financial advisor? How do they meet them? And here are the numbers. Are you ready? 16% will meet their financial or have met their financial advisor through lead programs, through seminars, through other types of things. 84% of the people you want to meet you from an introduction from someone else they already trust. So doesn't it make sense to build your business based on the path of least resistance to you? Look, I'm not saying you don't do some of those other things. You can try LinkedIn, which is really the new cold calling if you don't do it right. But it seems to me you want to build the foundation of your business based on how people want to meet you. And we're shifting our jargon and our nomenclature here a little bit. Rather than referrals, when it comes to prospects, clients, centers of influence, anyone who has the ability to connect you with someone, please use the word introductions, because we've got to get connected these days. We're not done until we get the introduction. I often say that referrals are worthless until we get introduced. You're going to hear me use the word referrals a lot here, but you'll hear me kind of combine it with introductions, because when we're client facing, center of influence facing, we do want to use the word introductions. So let me tell you where all this is coming from. You guys and gals have, some of you at least, have been taught some of the old methodologies, like, let me tell you how I get paid. I get paid in 2 ways, or I'm really trying to build my business and I can use your help, please. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help, but here's where I'm coming from with this. I'm coming from a place of believing in our role as financial leaders. My definition of financial leadership is helping people make financial decisions that are in their best interest that they wouldn't make without you. That's why you get paid the big bucks. It takes courage to do that, but when you question assumptions and you redirect their mistaken thinking, and you get them to take action on things they've been putting off sooner rather than later, that's the important role that you play in people's lives. And I think you also know that when you help your clients, there's a ripple effect, right? There's a ripple effect in many other people in their lives, and they're obviously the beneficiaries, their children, could be their parents, siblings, their business, you name it. So this is where it's all coming from, right? Bringing your value to other people. It's a very important distinction. So the agenda for today is really kind of my system. It starts with the mindset, starts with thinking around this, because a lot of folks bring mistaken thinking, limiting beliefs, etc. And then we've got to think about becoming referable through client engagement. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But when we create these engaged clients, and then we leverage that engagement to promote introductions, occasionally ask for introductions, and then get connected, create a good introduction, And then we use the principles of engagement with that brand new prospect. Again, you can create a continual flow of good quality clients coming into your business using these very simple principles. So let's start with your referability and this idea of engagement. Now, how do you know you're referable? Well, one barometer of your referability is that you're getting referrals without asking or introductions without asking. Everyone on this call, myself included, should be getting at least some unsolicited introductions. If we're not, then clearly something is missing. And I've had people come to me for coaching or just talking to them after a speech where they say, I'm not getting any referrals or introductions. And then they say, but my clients love me, but they're not getting any unsolicited introductions. So I said, well, let's get back to that client loves you thing. It may not be as much as you think it is. So Julie Littlechild has studied this, and every couple of years she studies this. And you can look at this chart. It shows satisfied clients, very, very loyal, 99%, but only 20% of satisfied clients participated in this introduction game within the last 12 months. So there's actually a low correlation between client satisfaction and providing introductions. Then she took a look at engaged clients, obviously incredible loyalty, and almost everybody engaged in the referral process over the last 12 months. So who gives referrals? Engaged clients give referrals. All right, so you're thinking, all right, Bill, sounds nice. What's an engaged client? Well, I'm glad you asked. And look, I know you're already doing this to a certain degree. And what I'm trying to do is shine some more light and give you a few ideas to do even better with this. So first of all, we make a value connection. Uh, the questions you ask, right? You know that creates value because you get people thinking in different ways. You teach people along the way. That creates value. You nudge them to make the right decision sooner rather than later. That creates value. You have responsive service and just responsive, getting back to folks quick. That's value connection, right? And then the other part, which is also very important, is the personal connection. So that's the quote unquote business friendship that develops over time. And there's lots of things to do to enhance that. Every now and then I run into an advisor that says, what's this personal connection stuff? They just want to come to me for me to handle their investments, and we don't have to be business friends. And actually, I just saw a study recently. I'm trying to track down the original source before I start to quote it, where this really actually is very important. I think it said something like 29% of financial advisors thought that the personal relationship, the personal connection with the client was important, but 68% of the clients said it was important. So there's a gap there. Now, if a client sees your value, but they don't really like you or trust you much, are they going to do business with you? Probably not. Are they going to refer you? Probably not. If they like you and trust you and think you're a great person, but they're not really sure you provide any value, same thing, right? They're not going to move forward. So what I want you to think about is throughout the entire lifetime of your relationship with clients, from the courtship, the prospect experience, to the onboarding with a new client, to the ongoing relationship over time, how do you keep bringing value and how do you keep enhancing the personal connection? We always want to think of both of those at the same time. Very important. So one way is to do this quickly with prospects. Don't even wait for them to be clients, is to talk about what I call a client-focused why. And what I mean by this is why you believe in the value that you bring, but in a client-focused way, meaning what is the benefit to the client of you believing in your value, kind of being missionary around this work. And many of you got into this business because maybe you have a degree in finance, or you just like the market, you like financial stuff. You like making good money, which you can in this industry, and you like flexibility over your schedule, which is great. And those are all good things. I'm not saying anything bad about that. It's all good. But that's not the why I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about could be why you got started in this business. And I'll give you an example. One of my clients, Carol Upshur, out on the West Coast, before she became an advisor, she and her husband got some bad advice and they lost some money, and they were young. They recovered. It's okay. She's shifting careers and she decides to become a financial professional. And so her why that she would say to prospects, and she'd do it something like this. She'd go, it's a little bit about what we do and how we do it. And I've got some questions to ask you. I know you have some questions to ask me, but before I get there, I want to shift gears for a second. I want to tell you a little bit about why I do this, what drives me every day. And that's where she tells a little bit of story of what happened to her and why she got in this business. And then she says to her prospect, so it's my mission to make sure that whatever happened to me or anything remotely like it never happens to anybody that I know or anybody I work with. And she started.
Uh-oh, we lost Bill for a moment. Bear with us as we embrace these technical difficulties. It's his connection. Let's see if he bounces right back in. One of the things that I was taking notes on is the engagement piece, in that disconnect between where we as advisors, at least in this study, I'm not saying I'm speaking for everyone here, is that personal connection where the advisor thought had a lower ranking of that versus what the client said much had a higher ranking. And I just know from my experience, whether it's on the financial advisor side or the coaching consulting side, making those personal connections is very important. And for me, I want to spend time with the people I enjoy spending time with, whether that's professionally or personally. So getting in alignment with people that share interests with you, hobbies, values, to me, that has always made sense to me, because I would like to look at, if I'm sitting in a coaching appointment or a financial planning appointment with somebody, could I see myself hanging out with them outside of that environment? To me, that's where that engagement and that connection can even be a lot stronger. So I think we've got Bill Cates. Bill, you back on with us? I see your circle with initials. That gives me a little bit of hope that you're there. Sure. I'll text him as we're talking here. We go back and forth. I'll ask, is he okay? He's trying to jump back in. So I would encourage you to make those personal connections. That's the point I was making. Is I learned a long time ago, one of my mentors said, you got to find a way to fall in love with every one of your clients. Find something that you can appreciate, admire about them. And therefore, if you find or start working with clients where they already have these qualities that represent maybe who you are or what you like doing, it's a lot easier to fall in love with them in order to do that. So, Bill, you're back.
I guess I'm sorry about that. I got thrown off the internet here. Somebody doesn't like me.
Did you get a 15-yard penalty for something there?
Yeah, yeah.
Get
Well, let's.
ejected?
Mind if I keep going?
Keep going.
All right, good. Let me give you a couple of very specific examples here of this why thing, and then we'll move on. So Dennis O'Keefe is a guy I coached for a while. He has his client focused why on a video on his website. If you go to successfulmoney.com, great URL by the way, they scroll to the bottom. I wrote the copy for that website. I did not design it though, so don't judge me on the design. He's got to redo that, but the copy's good. And so his why is what happened. He was an advisor, he still is, as his father started to go through into retirement, and he just got a closer look at the angst that his father went through and determining, do I have enough money? Where's it going to come from? Where do I pull from first? Yada, yada. And so that's when he kind of doubled down and recommitted himself to helping people navigate into a successful retirement. So it's a very personal story. The neat thing about your client focused why is that it's usually a story involved, and people listen to stories differently, and it's a very powerful thing to do. Using your client focused why will not only make you more referable more quickly, it will actually help you win more business. Let me give you a perfect example. This came in about 2 months ago. So Timothy, I'm working with a team. He's on with a 10-person team, and he was struggling a little bit with his why, his client focused why. And he finally realized it was, he was in a wirehouse model for a long time, where not a long time, a few years. And he didn't like it because it was like the deal of the day, the product of the day, these quotas on all these things. And he realized he wasn't serving his clients in the best way possible. So he made some shifts in his business so he could do what was right for the client at all times. And that became his why. And then he struggled a little with bringing it up, when to bring it up. So we finally got him into it. And so the very first time, he's with two sisters who are interviewing several advisors to help manage their money. And he had the courage, and he shared his why. And one sister said, "That's what we've been waiting to hear." Another sister said, "Yes, that's perfect." And within a week or two, they brought in $1.5 million for him to manage, and more is coming, uh, just by sharing why he believes in the work that he does. So I challenge everybody to figure out what that why is. And if you're not sure, but if you have a little story, you want to send it to me, I'd be happy to look at it and give you some feedback. And this is something you want to do with prospects. You don't necessarily wait for them to be a client. Now, if you're working on your client focus why, you can start with your clients and kind of practice on them a little bit and say, George, I don't know if I ever told you why, and how I got started in this business, or why I believe in this work. So you can certainly practice with the clients who love you, and then eventually start using it with prospects. So I do have a little report. I'm going to send this to you. Just make sure you put D2 in a subject line to my email address, billcates@referralcoach.com, and I will send the report on this why. It goes a little deeper than we have time for today. All right, the next part of the relationship is the client experience and the new client experience, what's often called the onboarding process. Most of the time, when I talk to advisors and I say, "What does your onboarding process look like?" It's usually internally focused, meaning, well, we get people into the CRM and we get this set up and this set up. But that's not the part I'm talking about. I'm talking about what the client experiences and feels and sees, uh, and how they're let into your world down the proverbial red carpet. So remember, we're trying to bring value and build personal connection, both at the same time. And so a lot of different things you can do to enhance the value. One obvious one that a lot of people miss is actually just reviewing the statement the first month or two to make sure your client just clearly knows how to read their monthly statement, or if you have things online, how to access stuff online, right? But educational events, Randy Carver, I interviewed for one of my podcast episodes. He does an educational event every month. He does it for his clients. He does it for client engagement. So it's different topics every month. It's not the prospecting educational seminar and in person and Zoom. So what happens is, within this first 60, 90 days of the onboarding, his new clients have the opportunity to attend more value added seminars. And so they get get another shot of that value and relationship. And then, of course, we're trying to enhance and advance the business friendship. And Randy also does a client appreciation event every single month. And this way, all of his clients get a chance to be appreciated. They get a chance to hang out with other clients. And here's what happens. I'm a big believer in client appreciation events, and we can do something on that down the road. But here's what happens. It's called consistency theory. So when your clients who like you and trust you get together with other clients who like you and trust you, what happens? Well, they all like you and trust you just a little bit more. It reinforces. So even if you don't do it to meet guests, even if you just do it to appreciate, this will enhance the business friendship. And there's lots of other things you can do. Getting involved in any philanthropic community service activities they have, not just writing a check, but maybe showing up from time to time. So we're trying to enhance the value, enhance the business friendship. Let me give you a couple examples. This podcast I'm doing now, I got to tell you, it's the best things that ever happened for me, because I'm bringing home so many clear examples of the things I've been teaching for years, and I can share with you these stories of what people are doing with these things. So Brian Sweet in Minnesota has what he calls the 90-day dazzle. Now, he doesn't tell his clients, look, I'm going to try to dazzle you for 90 days. That's their internal title, but they have a checklist of ways to bring value and ways to enhance the personal relationship in the first 90 days. And one of the key things he does that makes a huge difference and actually generates a lot of unsolicited introductions. All right. A lot of unsolicited introductions. I got to repeat that within the first 90 days. This is an untapped area for most advisors. He does a vision board. Sometimes it's called a success board, a dream board. There's lots of different versions of this. We used to cut things out of magazines, right, and paste them up on a board. Now it's even easier to change things around. But when he visits with people around their dream board, he really does get to know his clients. And you know as well as I do that the better you know your client and all aspects of their life, because money touches all aspects of their life, you're a better advisor. You serve them better, and you create that business friendship that happens as well. And if there are things change, they change. So what most advisors that I've talked to do, not all, but most, they'll do a plan. They'll figure out what the dreams are, what the goals are, but they never bring them up again in the relationships with their clients. And so the plan and the dreams and the goals just sit on a shelf somewhere. And a very wise man that happens to be on this call right now, happens to be named Travis Ray Cheney. I'll never forget when he said to me, Bill, there's nothing worse than an unfunded dream. And so when you know what your client's dreams are, and then you help them make sure the money is there and other logistical things just to help them out, now this creates an incredibly strong relationship. And this is what makes you super referable throughout the relationship. Let me tell you about Lester, episode number 3. I love this episode, this interview with Lester, because Lester has a bucket list, and one of the items on his bucket list was to tend bar. And his wife said to him, well, why don't we throw a client appreciation event and you can be the bartender? He thought that was brilliant. I had a friend who has a restaurant and had a bar, so he tended bar a couple of nights to practice and realized he would never really want to be a full-time bartender. But everybody claimed knowing it was his bucket list item, and all his clients brought at least one of their bucket list items. And so now the underlying theme of Lester's relationships with many of his clients is, what is on your bucket list? How can I help you? And sometimes he introduces them to people. Sometimes he helps them set aside money. Sometimes he just, cheers them on and supports them. But what I like about this is that word bucket list, it's just very concrete. And, what's on your bucket list? What do you want to do before you go? And it gets very clear, and then he helps them achieve that from the very beginning of a new relationship. So onboarding and actually throughout the relationship. So these are the types of things that very, very million-dollar producers, successful advisors are doing to not just sustain loyalty with their clients, but also to become super referable. I forgot I had a slide that talks about all the stuff he does. All right. Oh, the other thing I want to talk about in the ongoing relationship is, the difference between working in your business, working on your business. Most time you're working in it. Right now you're working on it. We also need to think in terms of working in our client relationships and working on our client relationships. I went to an event that Travis put on, Dynamic Directions D2. Some of you are very familiar with Travis. Some came from my tribe, if you will, and just meeting Travis and his group. And there was a part of this conference, and they were all very successful advisors there in Nashville. And if one hadn't known that this was a room full of successful financial advisors, might have thought it was a room full of professional meeting planners, because at one point they were talking about all the types of events and things that they did to work on their client relationships, because they know the value of that business friendship. So I call this the value discussion. This is a conversation you want to have ongoing with your clients throughout the relationship. Of all the things I've been teaching for 30 years, this is without a doubt the most effective, most powerful way to create engagement and to become referable and even get unsolicited referrals. And so your verbiage will vary on what this looks like. So let me give you a few ideas. And when you get the slides, you can study these and then you can put in your own words. So let's say a brand new meeting, first or second meeting, maybe they're not really a client yet. We've covered a lot today. We've covered a lot over the last couple of meetings. What stands out as the most important, or what are the top 2 or 3 priorities in your mind from what we've talked about? Notice this is an open-ended question. It's not, did you find value in today's meeting? Yeah, great. Who do you know? It's not a setup. We want them to talk about it because they get more in touch with it that way when they have to put it into words. And then we learn about them, and we learn how what we do and how we talk about what we do resonates with our clients, which is very helpful in serving them better, and we're becoming more referable. Could be a decision to work with you, to do a financial plan, to transfer assets, to go into underwriting for life insurance, whatever it looks like. We've weighed a lot of factors. We've talked about a lot of things. I'm curious what tips and scales to help you move forward. Or I know you were visiting with a couple different options, a couple different folks you were thinking about. What they decided to go forward with us. And obviously that answer, whatever that answer is first going to reinforce their decision to work with you, which is not a bad thing. They get more and more touch with the value because they have to put it into words. And then you also feel good about the value, and you learn and you see how what you're doing resonates with people. And then the last example I have is a review meeting, annual, quarterly, semi-annual, whatever it might be. Let's put the market aside. Let's put the economy aside. Let's talk about what we can control, our communication, our overall working relationship. Anything not working, I should know about, right? You always want to start with, once you're in the review meetings, anything not working, or you could say any place where we're not meeting your expectations. Do not be afraid to go down this path. It's critical, because if there is something, or maybe even something they complained about before, and you just want to make sure you exercise the emotion finally and get it out of there, very important thing to do. Now, you're not going to often get any negative things, but you just want to make sure if they're there, you want to deal with them. Most of the time, most of your clients will just naturally shift to what they like about you. If they don't, then you want to say, well, what's working? Where are we meeting your expectations? Travis teaches a technique where you sit down with your clients and really you do a review of all that you've done. But it's not a value telling. It's not, we've done this, we've done this, we've done this, pretty good stuff, huh? No, it's a conversation. Look at what you have done, right? You, the advisor, you're the guide. The client, they're the hero. They're the hero of the story. And ultimately, they said yes to your suggestions, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. So this is what I mean by this check-in and making sure people are seeing the value. This alone, even if you don't try to leverage this, will turn into unsolicited referrals from time to time. And this is what creates that engagement. You can make this about the meeting. You can make it about a decision to work with you. You can make it about, or just to take advantage of another product. It could be the process you put them through, the planning process. It could be the relationship, overall working relationship. I guarantee that if you start checking in this way with just about everybody that you meet with, in a month's time, you send me an email. And if you haven't gotten an unsolicited introduction in that process, I'd be very, very surprised. And if you start to ask, then everything gets a little bit easier. So don't forget, you can get the slides if you join the slate. Just send an email to me, BillCatesReferralCoach.com, put D2, that stands for Dynamic Directions, in the subject line, and I will get the PowerPoint to you on a PDF form so it can email, and a few other guides that are coming up. I'll show you. So let me take a breath. I apologize for that little technology snafu. Travis, any questions coming in? Anything that you think we should chat about just for a minute before I move to the next step?
Well, we're checking the chat box here. We don't have anything coming in, Bill. I think it's just a lot of absorption right now, a lot of processing of this wisdom and experience that you bring to the table. So I think
Thank
we
you.
probably should just go ahead and press on, but maybe for the last segment, we might get some questions. If you want questions, the best thing to do is just go to the chat box, type them in there. We've got our team, and we'll get those to Bill. And then right before we exit, we'll be able to do that. Thank you.
Good, good. All right, so let's talk about leverage. Let's talk about how do we become proactive for introductions without begging, like this pooch, and without looking like the creepy referral guy. I can't tell you how many times I have had advisors and consultants and folks come to me and say, Bill, is there a way to do this without looking like I either hear creepy or cheesy referral guy. Now, nobody wants to look like this guy. I don't think even this guy wants to look like this anymore, right? And the good news is there is a way to do it. And there's two ways. The first is promoting. We can promote the introductions. Uh, and I have the word preferrals there because I know some of you have been exposed to this concept and technique, a strategy called preferrals, and I endorse it. I think it's great, and it's not a full-blown ask. It's a planting seed. It's just another way to plant the seed, and you'll kind of see it in the things that I teach. So we're not asking yet, but it still has a lot of value. I've been teaching this one forever. I didn't invent it. I've kind of popularized it in financial services over 30 years. I've got a book title with this name, and that is Don't Keep Me a Secret. Don't keep me a secret. Don't keep us a secret. Don't keep the important work we do a secret. Don't keep the process we put people through a secret. Any variation on that, it's cute. It's got a little smile to it. I know it doesn't fit everybody. You know, if you don't have a sense of humor, don't use this one. I got another one for you. Is it going to hurt a relationship? No. People aren't going to say, "Oh, I can't believe you said that. I'm moving my money right now." It's a fun little thing. I've seen people put this on PS on their signature file, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of ways to use this. Here's a kind of straightforward way to do it. Never too busy to see if I can be a resource for other people you care about. Notice I say never too busy to see. Those are the qualifying words. You see, when people are brand new in the business, and some of you may be, I'll tell you, say, you know, never too busy to help, never too busy to visit with, never, you know, because you need activity and you need to practice and all of that. But once you start to get a little more selective, never too busy to see if I can be a resource. You want to make sure all your clients know that if they send someone to you, unless it's maybe immediate family, you know, you're only going to take them on if the match is right, because that's what's best for them, the client, right? So never too busy to see. This one's similar to that one, but I came up with this one really as the pandemic hit hard. It was around in the end of March, April of 2020, when the pandemic hits real hard, the and the market crashes, and a lot of angst, right? A lot of anxiety. And I'm going to give you a little script here, but the words are very interchangeable. All right. So if you sense any friends, family, colleagues are feeling unsettled about their financial future, they're concerned about inflation, they're uncertain or worried about the volatile market. You know, they're worried about going into a bear market. They're worried about going into a recession. Whatever, right? You can interchange different words here. And the words unsettled, concerned, disturbed, stressed, these are important words because when people have the emotional reaction, that's when they're usually open to visiting with someone else and say, you know, I'm never too busy to talk with them, see if I can be of service, to make sure they're touching all the bases. You know, when we have crazy markets like this, whether it's volatile or extended bear market, this is an incredible opportunity for you to shine. And this is when people move. And hopefully, if you do the right things, you won't lose people and you will attract people coming to you. So this is another great way to promote. There's a lot of ways. I teach about 10 different ways, but in the interest of time, let me give you one more. And this is really the most effective. The two main reasons why people don't give referrals is they're concerned about confidentiality, or they've had a or I'm sorry, or they don't know how you're going to handle it, what it would look like. So it's an unknown and a perceived risk. So what we want to do, I would suggest you would want to do, is to teach all of your clients, or at least your A clients, your B plus clients, how you would handle it if they thought of someone. Let me give you a quick script, and I'll tell you, and I can send the script to you with the slides, so you don't have to worry about trying to write these words down. So it goes a little something like this. You know, George and Martha, I'm one more thing I want to cover before we're done here today. Many of my clients like to introduce me and the work I do to other folks they care about. And gosh, I thought if that opportunity ever presented itself to you, it would be good for you to have a sense of how I'd handle it, what it would look like, so you'd hopefully feel comfortable. First of all, the work we do, completely confidential. They will never learn about your financial situation from me, or vice versa. Even with family, very close friends, we can't cross that line. Second of all, I handle this sort of thing with great care, meaning I don't want to call people from out of the blue and surprise them and make them wonder, you know, why George and Martha gave my name out there to this guy, right? Nobody likes to get that kind of call. I like to work really through introductions, comfortable introductions. So when you identify someone, let's chat about it a little bit and let's make sure we come up with the right approach so you feel comfortable, so they feel comfortable. And gosh, if we're lucky, maybe we at least, pique their interest in hearing from me. How does that sound? Well, it's an easy yes, right? Because you're not really asking for the introductions at the moment, but you're teaching them a huge thing. How many referrals introductions are you not getting because you never taught your clients what it would look like? And so you're not handling those two prevailing points of resistance that stop people from actually giving referrals or making introductions. So the good news is I've got that script that I just gave to you there. You can adjust it, of course, for yourself and make it as comfortable as possible. But again, if you send D2 in the subject line to Bill Cates, referral coach, I will get the slides. I will get these reports I'm talking about. I'll probably come up with a couple other goodies, free goodies to send to you just because I want to bring you as much value as I can. Now, what we don't want to do is confuse promoting with asking. Everything we were talking about here is promoting. It's not asking. I was working with a team actually in Long Island, and they said, Bill, we have been asking, but we don't get very many. So maybe we're not asking right. I said, all right, well, tell me how you're asking. And so it turns out they were promoting. They were saying, never too busy to see if we can help. If you identify anyone, we're happy to visit with them. And that's all good. And that can turn into some nice results, but it's not usually enough to take you in the direction and the level of growth that you want to have. So real quick, I want to share with you how to ask, what it looks like, and then I'm going to we'll do this little special announcement, and then I'll wrap up with some other good content. And as I get into this, I need to acknowledge kind of the quote unquote elephant in the room, right, as to what's going on around asking for introductions. And look, I know you're smart. I know you're confident. You wouldn't be in this business. You wouldn't be on this call right now if you weren't smart and confident. But what I found is a lot of smart, confident, and even pretty successful advisors, when it comes to being proactive and asking for introductions, turn into a bowl of quivering jello. It's like all of us. I did a in-person presentation this morning, and half the room laughed at guilty laughter because they could relate to this, right? So some people are naturals when it comes to asking. They just have it down. But most people aren't naturals. For most people that I've worked with, a switch has to flip, right? That switch inside the brain has to go from off to on, and then they get it. You like this slide, by the way? It took me a whole football game watching the Washington football team playing somebody where I figured out how to do that. Anyway, let me give you an example of what I mean by this. Al Fox. When I started coaching Al Fox, he had 300 million of investable, assets under management. Already doing pretty well, right? Uh, but he knew he was weak with referrals. He just knew he wasn't doing what he could be doing with that, and we had to flip the switch for him. And the problem for Al is that he was stuck on the old methodology, how we get paid, kind of a begging mentality. And by the way, in 2020, he went over $1 billion in assets. And when he realized that he didn't have to make it the old way, that he could actually make it about paying the value forward to others, that's when he kicked into high gear when it came to getting introductions. And he gets a ton of them and he asks for them and doing really well because of that. So I teach what I call the VIPS method. Think of the referrals, introductions you get as the VIPs of your business. I want to focus on the last part because they're all important. We talked about the value discussion, but the suggest names and categories is where I found people drop the ball. And so we got to stop throwing open the whole universe. We got to stop saying, who do you know we can help? Who do you know should know about the work we do? I suppose it's better than nothing and occasionally lightning strikes, but it's not a very strong way to ask. Let me give you the best possible way, most comfortable and effective way for you, and usually the most comfortable for your clients. The bullseye in asking specific people they know. That is the best place. You want to be as narrow as you possibly can. Now, how do you know these people? How do you learn these people? Well, from the minute you meet someone, start asking questions like, who are people in your life who make financial decisions that will impact you? You see, you probably ask clients and prospects, you make financial decisions and they will impact people, right? Who they impact? Well, they impact my kids, right? They might impact my parents. They might impact my siblings, right? But ask the flip, right? Who's out there making decisions that could impact you? And sometimes they haven't even thought about that, which is a very powerful conversation. So what we're doing is we're learning as much as we can about our prospect or client, which allows you to serve them better. And you're starting to build a little bit of an inventory of possibilities. Here's a great one. Who are some folks in your life who you really respect the financial decisions they've made, right? Maybe they've retired well, or maybe they saved well. What are we doing here? We're learning about our client and their relationship to making good financial decisions. So it helps us treat and serve them better. And then we're building a bit of an inventory. And that's what we're trying to do here. If you do your job well and you exercise curiosity, you you can't not come to a meeting with not knowing some people that they know. I just used triple negatives there, right? You got to know some people in their life. So that's the easiest place to go. And I'll model this real quick. Now, a very close second is life events, money in motion, all these sorts of things, changing jobs, having a child, getting married, inheritance, selling a piece of property, business, selling a business, whatever it may be. And a lot of people do come to you because they're in a transition. And so this is a great place. So you have a few categories. So it's names and categories. Now you can get into LinkedIn. Some people call LinkedIn the new cold calling. And we've all been cold called on LinkedIn, haven't we? Like every day we get LinkedIn cold call messages. I hope you're not looking like that. That's a topic for another time. And then further out is the open-ended brainstorming. So you can get into open-ended brainstorming and say, well, it's, some ideas I had. Who do you think? But you don't start there. Start as narrow as you possibly can. So let me model it for you, give you an idea. I got two versions. I got kind of a longer version and the shorter, I cut to chase. And then we'll do a little announcement here for you. So, uh, you know, George, Martha, I'm glad you're seeing the value in the work we're doing. I'm glad we got a happy client here. I talked to you when we first got started. I'm kind of on a mission to help people make financial decisions that are in their best interest. And so I was hoping we could put our heads together for a couple minutes, see if we can identify a few folks that you at least think should know about the work we do. I do have a couple ideas. A few folks you mentioned the last time we talked, and actually a couple categories of people that we do some important work for. And you're actually in one of those categories. What category am I in? Who did I mention last week? See, when you come prepared and you let them know you've come prepared, especially people they've mentioned or a couple of categories, you can often have a lot of fun. It creates a lot of curiosity here. And remember, we're only asking people from the value discussion, they see the value. They like us. They like the relationship. Are you going to hurt a relationship with this? Are they going to stop working with you? No. I've been doing this for 30 years. No one has ever lost a client. The worst thing that happens is you plant the seed. You promote the possibility. And I suspect most of you here have experienced this, where you have asked a client for introductions. It didn't go anywhere for whatever reason. And in 2, 3 months, they come back and say, hey, I think I got somebody for you, right? They just want to do it on their own time and their own terms. So it's easy. Now, let me give you the second version, and then we'll give you the little announcement and then take some questions. So we still do the value discussion, always lead with that. But now I'm going to cut to the chase. So I'm going to say, George, I'm glad you're happy with the work we're doing. And, we love working with you. You've just been just a pleasure to work with. And, you mentioned your sister and brother-in-law a couple of times. She's a physician. He's an attorney, right? And you told me they were successful and busy. And whenever I hear successful and busy, I know that these people, they're smart, but they may not be taking the time that you've been taking to make these important decisions and do this important work. Assuming we come up with an approach that feels comfortable for you and for them, would you be open to introducing me? Right? Assuming we come up with a comfortable approach. I want to put that in the conversation pretty quickly so they know I'm not just asking for a phone number and going to call somebody out of the blue. This is how you ask. This is simple. It's never going to hurt a relationship, and it's extremely effective. Let me teach you how to get out real quick. Friend of mine, Barry Alberstein, calls it the graceful exit. I call it the emergency exit because I just like to have fun. And really, we're just planting the seed, right? George, that's fine. I know some people don't feel comfortable doing this sort of thing. Not a problem. I just wanted you to be aware of the fact that I'm never too busy to see if I can be a resource for others. Fair enough, fair enough, right? Just plant the seed, and then you're done. You've not hurt any relationship. Now they know you are indeed open for business. You want to make sure all your clients, especially your A clients, know that you are never too busy to see if you can be a resource for someone else. So. Um, uh, in the interest of time, let me skip this question. Let me go to something I want to talk about, and Travis and I want to tell you about, and then I'm going to talk to you about securing a solid introduction. And I can even hang a little late and answer some questions for folks. So here's the important announcement I want to tell you about, that Bill Cates and Travis Cheney, Dynamic Directions, D2, and his whole team, we've kind of joined forces. And we've joined forces to create a very specific type of training and coaching program that's never really been done quite like this before. And so I'm going to just turn it over to Travis for a minute or two to tell you a little bit about this. It's not a hard sale, guys. Really, all we're asking you to do is visit a website and take a look at it, and maybe schedule a free strategy session. So, Travis, why don't you tell them, why me, why us together for a minute or two, and then we'll carry on and talk about how to create introductions.
Thanks, Bill. Well, I've known Bill for almost 20 years. We were introduced by a mutual coach, and we've done programs together. Bill's been an inspiration to me in the work that he's done. He's done the forward of both, I think, my books, or at least been a part of my books. I just had a huge admiration for Bill and all the work that you've done. And as we started to talk about what we're doing here at Dynamic Directions, recently we added a digital marketing arm, because the fundamentals of marketing hasn't changed. How we distribute marketing messages has. So that's why we launched that. So we added that platform. And then at the end of the day, Bill and I both agree this is a relationship business. And if you listen to a lot of what he was saying today around value and client experience and interpreting that value, we align philosophically through and through. And so when we were talking about how can we work together, I felt like it was important that this is kind of our old school, right? Basics, getting back to the fundamentals of relationship building, building a referable experience. And to me, it was really important that we add Bill's component to our offering to help advisors really achieve the level of success they know that they can, and utilize his tools and resources along with our shared philosophies. So to me, it was just a very natural fit with our alignment and who we are, what we do, and how we do it. And what we're doing here essentially is, Bill has 30 years of experience, 30 years of resources, tools, things on video. You've already seen that if you just send him an email, you're going to get all these different white papers and how you can get this. And we just felt like we wanted to get this out more. And that's why we've got him teamed up with Steve Lennick as to helping do the coaching end of all this, provide the encouragement, the accountability, the consulting that goes along with it. And we're just real excited that we can work with individuals on this. We can work with teams if you want to bring people together, whether we're working with a sales leader or an advisor leader, or we're working directly with the group. So it's just an exciting time here for us at Dynamic Directions to bring on an old pro and seasoned veteran who just has a lot of the shared values and interests that we have in serving clients. And that's why we wanted to bring Bill on. And I would encourage you to go look at that site. And if you're interested, just let us know and we can set something up and we'll follow up with you.
Yep. Sounds good. And if there's anybody I feel comfortable teaming up with to help with this, with the training and coaching, it's Steve. And Steve fills a lot of the gaps that I have in terms of the other practice management things that he can also bring to the table. So if you just go to advisorcoaching.com, you'll learn more about it. And the next step is a complimentary strategy call, just to chat through and see what are you trying to accomplish. Does it make sense? And we'll go from there. No obligation for sure.
Right.
All right. So
The
we got
only thing
about,
I would state
yeah,
there, Bill, is if you pull that picture back up, I think we need to update a profile here, because I'm looking
yes.
at Steve on the screen right now, and he looks quite different with the hair on the face. I'll say that.
Yeah,
I think it's
he's
better.
got the COVID beard like a lot of guys, playing with their facial hair.
The snow just melted, so it's coming off soon.
Oh,
There-
okay. All right. All right. There you go. Well, you probably look like you lost 20 pounds when you take the beard off too. All right, well, let's keep going. Let's talk about securing a solid connection. Before COVID came out, nobody knew what the criteria for approving a drug by FDA was. Now everybody knows it's safe and effective. And if I had to translate that to the referral thing we're talking about here, it's comfortable and relevant, right? We need this to feel safe, feel comfortable for the introducer, for the introducee, and then effective, right? Relevant, so we spark their interest. You want to learn as much as you possibly can about your referral source. This is where things break down sometimes about the prospect. Sorry, um, some people will get introduced or they'll work on introduction, but they don't collaborate with the referral source, the introducer, and so they don't learn what they need to learn to have an effective introduction and effective follow-up to the introduction. What's going here's my favorite question on this one. What's going on in their life that's important to them, right? If it's a B2B sale, what's going on in their business that's important to them, her, him, whatever. And that money intersects all aspects of one's life. So whatever is going on in their life's radar, if you can tailor, why you're being introduced, why this person is introducing you, and then how you follow up with that to what's going on in their life, now you have a relevant introduction and you're going to get a better response from people. So different types of introductions: in-person business, in-person social. Um, in person is the best. There's no question about that. Because when you meet in person, then at a business event or a social event, and then you have your more one-on-one meeting, you're at a higher level. Everything's easier. But the thing you got to be careful is losing the momentum. So if it takes a lot of logistics and figuring out to get together for lunch or a round of golf or meeting in a networking event or whatever it might be, if the logistics are getting in the way, then you want to scrap that and get to the next types of introductions. But if you can make it happen quickly, then by all means, I recommend that. Now that pretty much the whole world has become much more comfortable with Zoom, there are exceptions, of course, or GoToMeeting or Microsoft Teams, whatever platform. If you have a client that really likes you, likes your work, wants to introduce you to someone, and they have a friend, colleague, family member who really does want to meet you, a three-way Zoom is a great way to get introduced. It's almost in person, not quite. So consider that. It's very easy to do, especially when you have very interested parties. One of my favorite is the email handshake, and then what I call the client bump, which I'm going to give you examples of in just a second. So hang in there for these examples. And then texting. Now, texting is fraught with compliance issues for some people. Texting, obviously, the younger generation tends to do it a lot more than the older generation. The thing about texting is that usually you can't you don't want the text to be very long, and I like to take it off the text as quickly as possible into an email and then onto a Zoom, because as you know, just a couple of sentences on a text looks like a book. But let's get into the email handshake and the client bump, and then we'll take some questions. So I've got a few of these, but I got time for two right now. So all right, so here's what we got. We got the client. Bob Jones is sending this. The prospect is Laura Smith and the advisor, Bill Cates. Laura Smith, meet Bill Cates. This is a handshake. This is as if Laura, we're having dinner with lunch with Bob, and Laura walks in. Hey, Laura, I want you to meet Bill. Bill, I want you to meet Laura, right? And remember that conversation we had about retiring without having to take a pay cut? Well, I want to meet Bill Cates, da, da, da. Here's the reason I'm introducing you, right? What's going on in her life that's important to her, right? What have you guys talked about? How do you think she'll react to this? That's what'll inform you on how to help Bob craft this introduction. And then Bill, meet Laura, handshake, right? Laura, I highly recommend you speak to Bill. It'll be time well invested. This is a great way to get introduced. It's gone out because you were there and you weren't CC'd. You were on the two line, right? Equal footing with the prospect is nice. And then you follow up, usually for a short phone call. My follow up to email introductions, I'm looking for a 10 to 15 minute phone call or Zoom. I want an easy yes from the prospect. I'm not trying to get into a full-fledged meeting yet. So that's one thing. Now you can create a template. You can send it to your client. In some cases, you have to get approved by compliance. Fine. I work with a lot of companies and they approve them. And you just say to your client, can you emulate this? Can you do something similar to this? And quite often they'll do it. They'll do it well. Sometimes they'll have you look at it, fine tune it. So let's say you have a client who can't be bothered by making an introduction like this, or drops the ball, or just can't get around to it, right? So a good fallback position, I call this the client bump because of what you see on the left side of the screen. Bob, the client, has agreed to add to the email chain when he sees it come through to say some nice things about you. So I say, Bob, look, I'll tell you what, I know you're busy. Why don't I send an email to Laura? I'll mention you in the subject line because she doesn't know me, but she knows you. And so at least she'll open it. And I'll, say, give her a sense of what we do. And then when you see that go through, can you add to it? Those nice things you just said a couple of minutes ago. Could you add that to the, oh yeah, I can do that. Sure. Fine. Right. So I'm going to introduce myself. Right. I'm gonna personalize this as much as I can. In this example, I personalize it by letting her know I work with other people within that same company, which sometimes can be very relevant and helpful. If I've learned what Bob likes or admires, I might throw that in there to have a little fun. And based on Bob's urging, I like to schedule a brief 10, 15-minute call. Now, hopefully, Bob will see this and he will chime in as quickly as possible. And that adds a kind of nice 1-2 punch. But even if Bob doesn't do what he says he would do, at least you've made connection with the prospect. You've got a little bit of endorsement there because Bob asked you to do it based on Bob's urging. And this works pretty well. It's not quite as effective as the last one, but it works pretty well. And so when you get the slides, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a few more of these templates. So you're going to get these and a couple more, and then you can pick and choose and figure out what's best for you. So like I said, send D2 in the subject line, BillCates@referralcoach.com. I'm going to pause for questions. Before I get to that, go to advisorcoaching.com. Check out our new program, brand new, the best of both worlds with great online on-demand video training to make it very efficient. And then the calls that you do with Steve will be, it's all about implementation, all about producing results. Because after all, if we don't produce results, what's the point, right? So Travis, any questions coming in? I can hang in for a few minutes. Anything bubbling up?
Bill, I don't see anything bubbling up, and we are at the top of the hour here, so we probably want to let people get back to wherever they were. And I want to say thank you on behalf of D2 in bringing this very value-packed presentation, and just let everybody know how excited we are to be partnering with you going forward to help bring more of these resources to help people move up market, build a referable experience, be a master at interpreting the value, incorporating their own language in and how they position or plant seeds or actually ask referrals. So I'm happy and honored to be in our profession. And to me, we need to get to more people, and the good guys need to win. The good guys are on this call today. We just need to figure out how to proclaim we're pretty good so we can get to more people.
Amen to that. Thank you, man.
So with that said, thank you, everybody. Feel free to check us out on advisorcoaching.com. If you got any other questions, feel free to send us an email. Don't forget to email Bill to ensure you get the slides and all those goodies he's going to give you. So make it a bullish day.